Gaming is much like other forms of media in that major media chases trends. The trend is usually the most successful piece of media in that market, leading to other companies wanting a piece of that market attempting to capitalize on the trendsetter's success. This leads to a genre or theme dominating the landscape of said media. Not always, but the most common reason for this is because it's a proven commodity and that trend will make money. After all, it's much less risky to follow a trend than be the trendsetter. Let's take a look at some examples. Right now, and well, for a while now, the trend in movie and the TV industry has been licensed properties, specifically comic books. This is due to the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which may be the biggest entertainment property on the planet. Every studio saw the popularity of this approach and the money being made and wanted a piece of the proverbial pie. So a bidding war began. Companies purchased the rights to make movies and TV shows of any licensed properties they could get their hands on. DC tried to establish their own cinematic universe, largely unsuccessful to this point. Anything in the pop culture zeitgeist seems to get a movie counterpart. There was even a Battleship movie based on the board game that had to be sold on the name alone. Gaming is no different. Publishers want to follow the most successful genre, and I can hardly blame them. Again, much like movies, games are time-consuming and expensive to make. So by following the current leader in the clubhouse, companies can justify the minimal risk spent on these expensive pieces of entertainment. This is not something new for gaming due to the rising cost of game development. It has been around since almost the inception of gaming, be it the most popular genre or just a game mechanic. Back in the 90s, the dominating genre was the mascot platformer. Gaming was still seen as a form of entertainment for children, and what did children like? Apparently weird mascots like Ronald McDonald for some reason. With platformers being the most popular genre, mascots gravitated to being included in these platformers. The mascot was also a symbol for each gaming company, their shining light that you can only play with their mascot on their console. Nintendo had Mario, Sega had Sonic, and even later in the decade, Sony had Crash Bandicoot. There was also mascot platformers from third-party developers like Spyro, Croc, and Bubsy. If you look at the landscape today, besides Mario, the mascot platformer is nowhere near its former glory. Until recent remasters brought some of the games back into the limelight, but they are still nowhere near as popular as they once were. This is not the only time the gaming industry has followed a trend. With the rise of online console gaming, one franchise took the scene by storm with a new mechanic into the burgeoning market of first-person shooters. That game, of course, was Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare popularized RPG elements in online competitive shooters. In Modern Warfare's multiplayer, players are rewarded with experience for pretty much any action they perform. Kill an enemy, gain experience. Capture an objective, experience. Assist in killing an enemy, gain more experience. All this experience would then level up your profile, unlocking better gear for you to use. With the unlocked gear, players could create classes to choose in a match, allowing a specialization in, say, close quarters combat. It was an effective way for players to connect to their character whilst playing, as there was some customization and a feeling of creation from nothing rather than just selection of a soldier. It also kept players coming back for more. Each time you gained a level, a guitar riff would chug along in the background, numbers are displayed indicating how awesome you are, and it really kept players invested, almost addictingly so. Other developers saw the traction that Modern Warfare was getting with players, and soon RPG mechanics were a common staple in shooters. Although not as big of a draw as it once was, this legacy is still highlighted today, in direct forms such as Call of Duty Black Ops 4, expanding on the RPG mechanics, to one of the most popular games on the planet, Overwatch, having levels gained from experience, where players earn loot boxes with each level. So why am I going through all this? Well, there is another trend right now, a genre that is at the forefront of popularity. Battle Royale. Much like Modern Warfare, many games are adapting the Battle Royale formula and trying to find their niche. PlayerUnknown's Battleground, or PUBG, is the pioneer and offers a survival style of gameplay. Fortnite has building allowing players to craft structures during a match, and Apex Legends has heroes. Where Apex Legends shines is not its own niche in the Battle Royale genre. It is with smart quality of life improvements that make Apex Legends stand out above all Battle Royale games on the market. I want to take a look at 3 quality of life improvements that Apex Legends brought to the table and why they should be widely adopted. First, the most publicized mechanic of the entire game is the ping system. For those who don't know, the ping system allows for communication between squad mates without the use of voice or text chat. With the press of a button, the game will make a contextual call out based on what the player is currently looking at, whilst also showing that location on the screen, the distance to said marker, and play an audible cue. The ping system can mark suggested locations for the squad to traverse, enemies, loot, or request a certain piece of equipment or ammo type, and even confirmation to the team that you are agreeing with what they pinged. Admittedly, with Apex Legends being such a fast-paced game, this could lead to frustration when attempting to mark fast-moving enemies at a distance. So far, I have been impressed that I can ping enemies in the distance without having the best aim, and it still marks out the enemies instead of pinging a direction. In fact, it is so accurate that most of the times when an enemy is not marked, my squad mates and I are aware the ping is not to travel in said direction, but to mark an enemy. The ping mechanic also remedies the reliance of having good communication in order to succeed. We have all had an issue where a teammate in a game is attempting to explain where they are or an enemy is approaching from. The ping system allows for clear and concise directives in the heat of battle. The mechanic works so well it replaces the need for voice chat in most instances. If you would still like to chat with your team, it enhances the experience as you don't need to messily describe something in-game and instead focus on the action. The ping system is so good that I hope something like this is widely adopted, not just in Battle Royale games, but online multiplayer games as a whole. Tying into the ping system and forms of communication, the second design choice is the voice legends and the callouts made during a match. In Apex Legends, you can select, well, legends, which have their own abilities, ultimates, and personality. This is unlike PUBG, where you're essentially playing as a lifeless husk. These legends express themselves throughout a match, be it via voice lines or using the ping system, or just in-game chatter between characters during the match. A prime example of this is when the legend Wraith is spotted. She will say, "I'm being watched." Yes, this is her passive ability, but all characters will provide nuggets of information, such as being close or far away from the ring and the time remaining until it approaches. This is much more useful than a phrase, "grenade out," which I'm sure you've all heard before. The third and final improvement assists new players rather than the hardcore players. When looting, attachments and gear of better or the same quality are not replaced if you attempt to change these in a rush with lesser quality gear. This gives new players guidance on what they should be looking for in loot. This is also made obvious by the color coding of the gear. But if you're in a hurry or you don't understand the color coding assigned to the gear, you can still quickly recognize what tier the gear is after a few rounds. This small change allows players to focus more on the constant movement and gunplay, which is rock solid, instead of trawling through menus trying to find what should be equipped. They are three things that I noticed while playing Apex Legends, and well, a brief recap of trends in games. If you noticed anything else in Apex Legends, or just want to talk about gaming trends, let me know in the comments.